Hello YouTube and welcome to my page, Beauty by Jorge. My page is all about hair, makeup, and the beauty industry. I am a licensed senior cosmetologist, have been working as a cosmetologist for over 25 years. Also, I am a master barber, I am a photographer, and finally, I am a makeup artist who loves to transform beautiful faces, my clients, everyone really. And I just want to welcome you to my page. I want you to subscribe and like and share my page. And this video is going to be a special video. I am doing a video about the laws of color, but for hair. So it's a laws of hair color is what I should have named it, but I'm going by laws of color because that's really what it is. And the laws of color are universal. They never change. They will never change. Just like gravity, just like when an apple falls from a tree, it falls every time. Here on earth, it falls every time. And the same goes for the laws of color. The laws of color are never going to change. It's like math. It's just always going to result in the same outcome. Every time you use the laws of color, be it for hair coloring, makeup artistry, photography, and so many fields that use the laws of color. Really, it's not just for hair coloring. It's for everything. Artists use the laws of color. You know, we all use it more or less. And many people who don't even consider themselves artists use the laws of color. For example, there are colors that are complementary. For example, you women or men who like to dress up nicely, fashionably, sometimes will pair complementary colors together. And you will do this really without knowing. But why? Because it's pleasing to the eye. So anything that's pleasing to the eye is going to be what we all prefer. So what I want to start teaching all about the laws of color when it deals and pertains to makeup. And I want you all to really consume and take in this information. If you have to repeat the video several times to get it into your mind, because I have struggled for many, many years in my, as a starter, as a beginning hairstylist and colorist, I struggled for so many years to comprehend the laws of color. It was one of the things, one of the goals that I set for myself. I want to be the best colorist I can be. I wasn't competing with anyone. I wasn't trying to outdo anyone. I was trying to be the best that I could be as a colorist. So what did I do? I learned everything as it pertains to color. I read the cosmetology book at least 3 times, but I read the color section of the cosmetology at least 10 to 12 times. And I learned by taking classes, by doing videos, by reading books. I did it all to learn and to better myself as a colorist. And so I really had to keep going back to the laws of color, keep going back to everything I had learned once, and I repeat it over and over and over again so that it can stay here in my mind. It is something that we always have to come back to. And I suggest if you're a hairstylist or a beginning colorist, I suggest that you always refer to the color wheel. This is called the color wheel. So let's take notation, because this is something that you will always refer back to, the color wheel. And the 3 primary colors, everything you see in my hair color, in this blazer, in this black t-shirt, V crew neck, because I like to be a little, you know, meow. Meow. And the colors that you see in the background, everything that pertains to color, it is made up of 3 primary colors. Everything comes from 3 primary colors. That is always going to be a constant. There's always going to be a percentage of blue, red, or yellow in every single color. So it is very important that you understand that the 3 primary colors are blue. Ooh, my spelling. I'm so used to doing this in Spanish that I sometimes get my language is mixed up and my spelling mixed up. But let's do it again. So blue is one of the most primary, most strong, I consider it the strongest primary color because it's the darkest actually. It's really the darkest color and it is overwhelmingly strong. It can take over and overpower the other two primary colors. The second primary color is red. The third, of course, is yellow. So these are the three primary colors. And it is in everything we see. There are billions, trillions, and really only God knows how many colors there are in the universe. And to the visible eye, we just cannot determine how many colors there are because there are many, many, many colors. And when it pertains to the three primary colors, from the three primary colors, we get secondary colors. That's another important thing you must know. So what do we get when we get blue and yellow? We get green. If you can see this, we get green when you mix the two. When you mix yellow and red, we always get orange. And when we mix blue and red, we always get violet. So let's think of it like this. When we think of tonality, which is something I'm going to get to in a little bit, in a little short while, the darker sections, the darker portions of color are always down here, violet, blues, and greens. The brighter, more warm colors. So these are the cooler colors. The cool colors are always purple, blues, and yellows in this hue. Think of it as something going halfway through. And then the warm colors are always brighter and lighter, reds, oranges, and yellows. Those are the warm colors. Now, secondary colors, first comes primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. Then comes secondary colors, which are orange, green, and purple. And then tertiary colors is when you start mixing them all, and then you get a third variety of colors, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so when it comes to hair, we have to think of hair as having always, at all times, primary colors. The blackest color of hair has much more of a blue pigment, but it still has shades of red and shades of yellow in it, even though we don't see it. It still has it. Underneath this black color, there's a pigmentation, a strong pigmentation, dominant pigmentation of blue. So there is more blue in this black color than there is red and yellow. There is still red and yellow, but there is more blue in the black. And that's what makes it appear darker and it appears cooler. But the same can go for a level 10 blonde. A level 10 blonde, it could be a cool blonde, or it could be a warm blonde, or it could be a neutral blonde. But a blonde can still have red, yellow, and blue, just a very small amount. Let's say, for example, that this blondest blonde has about 98% yellow, 1% blue, and 1% red. Even though we don't see it. That's just an example. I'm not a scientist here. I'm just the hairstylist. Even though we don't see the yellow and, the red and the blue and the blonde, it's still there. It's still there. The pigments are still there. It's just that we've removed it when we highlight, when we bleach, when we pre-lighten, or whatever you want to call it. We remove all of the dominant pigments from the hair, leaving it stripped. That's what they like to say, stripped. Stripped of all those other dominant pigments and leaving the majority of yellow. But there is still yellow in it. And there is still a little bit of hints of red and blue. We just don't see it. We remove it. And so what happens? A lot of people want to pre-lighten hair or bleach hair. I'm going to call it sometimes bleaching because a lot of hairstylists only understand when you say bleaching, but it's not bleaching because we're not using actual bleach. We are using lighteners to remove the pigmentation and take it from each level and make it lighter and lighter and lighter, resulting in the final color, which is always, always, always a pale yellow. We never completely remove all pigmentation. Hair never always turns completely white. That is just not the case. There is always color, even in the last level, level 10 of color, there is still yellow in it. There is still pigmentation in it. So we never completely make it white. We can only turn it and tone it white. Sorry for the distractions, my loves. There is a lot of commotion here in my house. I am not in my condo. I normally would record out of my condo in complete silence, but the powers that be says I can't do that at the moment. So there are a few distractions. There are people living here, my family. Anywho, so as I said, there is still yellow pigmentation in this color, and there is still a small level of the other two primary colors. So now we move on to when it pertains to hair color. This is not necessarily meant for makeup or photography. We're going now to what is hair color. So now that we know that the laws of color exist, we know that we can use the color wheel, which has the three primary colors in it, the secondary colors, the tertiary colors, and many, many colors can come and derive from that color wheel. I always suggest that you as a hairstylist or makeup artist or a photographer have a color wheel on hand. You can have it printed out. You can have it by Google, watching it on your phone, but it's important to always refer back. So now we know that all that exists. Now we have to know, as hairstylists and colorists, that there are 10 levels of color. There is level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There is always 10 levels of color, no more than that. Some color companies will label their colors 12, 12B, 12N, 12-0, whatever. They call it a 12, but what they really mean is a level 10, the lightest blonde. And that is always there. So there's always 10 levels of color. 1 is always a level, pretty much a color black. Level 1 is black. Level 2 is dark brown. Level 3 is medium brown. 4 is, I guess, regular brown. 5 would be lightest brown. 6 would be a dark blonde or light reds or whatever. 7 would be, I guess, neutral blonde, light blonde, lighter blonde, and then the lightest blonde, the lightest, the last level of blonde. And in these color levels, there are a variety of tones. Tones are different from levels. Tonality of hair is completely different from levels of hair. We have to really separate all these things and keep in mind to remember everything is different. For every person, we have to take into account the level of hair color. At what level is it? Because we have to understand that the level is all about the clarity. How light or dark is it? Is level 1 is always the darkest. Level 10 is always the lightest. So levels you got to think of as the lightness of the hair, how light it is. But tone, the tonality of the hair is different. Tonality is either, ooh, I spelled that R wrong. I'm sorry. Tones are either warm, neutral, or cool. And I have some pictures that I want to show so that I could also explain this visually, because as makeup artists, as hairstylists, as colorists, as photographers, whatever, we are all visual and we need visual aids. So I always keep on hand my color wheel, which you see here. I always have it on hand. I'm always ready with it. I also always have the primary colors, which are blue, yellow, red. Then the secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. Tertiary colors are the ones that are unlabeled. And complementary colors, which I was saying earlier, are, for example, green and red are complementary. What do we use for Christmas? We use a lot of green and red. It's always complementary. Anything that is directly across is complementary. Orange and blue is complementary. They go together. They look good. They visually look good. Yellow and purples go together. And so on and so on and so on. So we have to, as I was saying, think of this side being the cool colors. This is when we talk about cool and warm. And the top side, no, actually, the green, the blue, and the violets are cool. The yellow, the oranges, and the reds are warm. And when I wanted to show an example about what I mean is, think of warm as being a very warm, orangey yellow sunset. As you can see there, it is very warm. But when we talk about cool is, for example, when the sun has gone down completely and we are left with blue, violet, gorgeous green skies and everything is much cooler. But when we talk about neutral, neutral is when everything is more balanced. There isn't too much warmth, there isn't too much coolness, it's more balanced. And we also have to think of the level system as this. The level being levels 1 through 10, as I give this as an example. So we are on Earth and at the first step of the ladder. As we climb the ladder, we reach level 10 and we reach the sun. That is ultra bright, ultra light, and it is still yellow. It is not void of color. It is not white. It is still yellow. So this is what you got to think of when you think of the levels of hair color. It is a step. It steps up. The higher you get, the lighter you get. Also, I wanted to talk about pigmentation. So pigmentation in the hair, there is, as we said, levels, tones, and now we're going to talk about pigmentation. So let's write that down. So pigmentation. There's pigmentation underneath all of these colors. Underneath every level of color, there is a dominant pigment. There is a pigmentation underneath that color. So what is underneath this red? There is, and if you've noticed, if you're already been a person who's practiced coloring hair, when you lighten black hair or dark hair, level 1, level 2 hair, underneath that dark black or brown or whatever is always another pigment. The dominant pigment that we see right now is more of a blue pigmentation. But when we start to strip, remove the color, we start to see reds. Then we start to see oranges. Then we start to see yellows and orange yellows. And then finally yellows. But all of those pigmentations are in here. Every time we go lighter and lighter, we start to remove the pigmentation. So the dominant color in the black or dark black, brown or whatever, is blue. As we take it to the lightest shade, the lightest blonde, the dominant pigmentation is now yellow. Like we said, 98% of it is probably yellow. So I also gave examples here of what happens when we start removing the dominant pigments and other pigmentations start to show up. So as we go through level 1, 2, 3, we start to remove those dominant pigments of blue and we start to see dark reds, reddish oranges, light oranges. We start to see all of these colors before we could ever see the lightest blonde. So this is why when we have clients who say, I don't want to see any orange or red in my color. You have to lift to levels 7, 8, 9, and 10, or, get it past the reds and the oranges. You have to lift past that in order for you to then tone. And when you tone, when you tone, cool colors always appear darker. So if they want a medium ash blonde, you have to, for example, let's say level 7 medium ash blonde. They want that as a color or highlights. You have to always take them to a level 1 or 2 levels higher than what they want. So if they want a level 7, you lighten until you reach level 8 or 9. Then you tone it down. You tone it down to a level 7, because every time you tone with the cool color, it's going to darken that color or that hair by 1 shade, more or less. It depends on which toner and level of toner you go to, but pretty much it's going to tone it down. It's going to darken it. So I wanted to illustrate what the levels look like, because, one thing is here and one thing is with pictures. So here we go. Level 1 would be like that color. That is like a cool black. And let me turn my ISO down so that you guys can really see that. Level 1, level 2. Okay. So level 2 would be like a dark brown. Level 3, 4 would be like brownish to light brown. Level 5 is the lightest brown. Level 6, they put here a redhead, but she is a level 6 because that's the amount of clarity and lightness you can see in the hair. But that could also be a dark blonde if we wanted to go there. Level 7 is this more, neutral, natural blonde. Level 8 is a lighter blonde. 9 is lighter than the previous. And 10 is the lightest level, which I'm thinking we can't see that clearly, but it has a lot of yellow still in it. And that is what I wanted to show you guys. Now here's an example of what, let's see. Let's show this. I want to show this clearly. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. A warm tone is always like warmer and on the yellower side. A neutral tone is in between the cool and the warm. It has very little warmth and very little coolness. And when we go to the cool color, the cool blondes are platinum, more like icy, more like silver, more like white. And the same can be said for the browns. So a warm brown could have tones of orange and red. Neutral browns don't have too much darkness or redness or oranginess. It's more neutral. And the cool browns are more darker in appearance. They look darker and they don't have any warmth in them. And that is what I meant by that. So let's move on. Ooh, let me change I'm doing all this by hand, you guys. I don't have any assistants who can actually help me here. So this is all, me doing my best to give you guys the best color class that I could give you. So let's move on. I'm sorry if the video is too long or goes on for too much time, but I really want to be thorough. I really want to really teach a lot of what for a lot of people is confusing. A lot of people are confused. And really, in my opinion, a lot of hair schools, even the best schools, because I went to Paul Mitchell, even the best schools, they don't really cover laws of color in depth. I'm thinking this is what happens. It's so kind of like difficult to know really for it to stick to you. It's even more difficult to teach it. a lot of the teachers, unfortunately, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them struggle with teaching laws of color. It doesn't really permeate our brains. It doesn't really stick the first time. We have to keep going and repeating it and repeating. That's why I say when you want to repeat this video and refer back to this video, do so. Please do so, because it's going to help you. It's going to help you become a better hairstylist, a better colorist, and you're going to see the profits money-wise, and you're going to see that you are more secure as a hairstylist. You're going to feel more empowered as a hairstylist, and really you're going to go out and be able to work wherever you want to work, because who doesn't want or need a colorist? We all do. And I think that in this moment, in this time of pandemic, coronavirus moments, we're in a pandemic. We are sometimes shut in, we're closed down, and there's no time like now to learn and to really engage and suck in all of the knowledge that I'm trying to teach you guys. So for a lot of you who are out of work or have time, please watch the video. Please try to understand that the reason why it's long is because I really want to be thorough. It's not easy to learn this, and it's not easy to teach this. So I really want to push everything that I feel is necessary when it comes to coloring hair. So what tools are we going to need as hairstylists when we are in the salon? As a hairstylist, as a hair colorist, there are certain tools that you will need for your clients to understand, because you can't teach this to a client. Really, you can't talk about tonalities, levels of color, primary colors. There's no time for that, and they won't understand you. Most of them are not hairstylists. Most of them are not artists. They just know what looks good. They know what they want. So when we do consultations, and I'll get to consultations, when we do consultations with clients, we have to make it easy for them. So we need to have tools in our arsenal as hair colorists to be able to facilitate our understanding and our explanation of what we want to tell them, show them, do for them as a service. We need to be prepared. So what do? I like to keep a color wheel either on hand, or I use my phone. I go to Google. I use the color wheel all the time. I use strands of human color all the time. I use it all the time to show all the varieties of levels from darkest to lightest, of tones from coolness to warmth to neutrals, and I always visually show them. For example, I'll say, okay, love, your hair is a level 1 and it's black. You want, most of the time, this is what happens, they want to take it to the lightest level of blonde. And I sometimes will tell them the truth. My dear, my love, there is no way you're going to get from this black level, dark level 1, to a level 10 in one day. And you might be able to get a few strands to get this light, but you're going to end up bald. Bald and very upset and angry at me for having burned off your hair. I always like to take this in sessions. I like to lighten hair in different color sessions. Every 3 or 4 months, I lighten the hair. I only like to really lighten it no more. If it's a level 1, I like to go as far as level 5 or 6, 7 the most. It all depends. And this is really I can go on and on and on about this. Hair textures also are important. Thick hair is harder to lighten. Thin hair is easier to lighten. Curly hair is easier to lighten. But thick, coarse, thick Asian, Indian, or Latino hair is harder to lighten. So I like to do it in sessions. So I like to show with human hair all the varieties of colors and levels and tones. So I use the color wheel for myself. I use this for my clients. And one of the last things I use is always, and I used to have a photo album. of all my work. But now we've gone digital and I always have my work on hand. So if you could see, I always show with pictures what it is they want. They will sometimes, this is what I will do as well. For example, there are 2 shades of red here. There's a cool side, cool red, which is more on the burgundy side. Cool reds have more blues. So the reds and the blues are mixed and you get violets. Then you have the warm side of red, which has orange and yellow tones. And I will show, you know, cool blonde. This is a cool blonde. This is a warm blonde. And, you know, and so on. A cool brown, a warm brown, or a neutral brown. So I always have pictures on hand. Everyone, they always bring in pictures nowadays. Back then when we didn't have phones, I mean, I'm old. I'm 41 years old. It was all about the albums. It was all about what you could see and touch with a physical picture. Now everything is digital, so we use iPads, we use phones, and that's what we use. We have to be clear with clients. We have to be clear as colorists with clients because you don't want to have spent hours lightening hair and then making it look ashy or green or too cool when they want it warm or too warm when they want it cool or too, hold on, wait a minute. Sometimes clients will be like, I like warmth, and sometimes the stylist will turn it blue or green. Sometimes clients want it cool, and the stylist doesn't know how to get there, and everything looks orangey, brassy, disgusting to them. And so it's very important that you understand all of this, tonality, levels, and color pigmentation, primary colors and secondary. All of it is important. So we're going to finalize the video. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. I have 2 more parts. I'm sorry. I am so sorry for the lack of, how do you say, order, but this is really me being myself. I'm not that organized and I'm not that good at editing videos, so I like to just completely record what I'm going to say and just leave it all in. I'm sorry for all the mistakes I'm making, but bear with me because this is really me by myself, doing everything by myself. I really put in so much work into this video. I did it as if I were studying for something like for a big exam or for a university presentation. I have lights up, I have cameras, I have lights in front of me. I have, this whole diagram, and it really took a lot out of me, and I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, but I really want to get this right. So there are many color lines, just as there are so many makeup lines, there are so many color lines. There's Joico, there's Paul Mitchell, there's Redken, there's, oh my God, there's so many color lines. But one thing I will tell you, I've worked in high-end salons that are upscale, salons where you would think they have the best stylists and hair colorists in the world. And I've worked in those kinds of salons. And all the color lines really do the same thing. It is just preference. Just like somebody may choose Maybelline over L'Oreal, over CoverGirl, over MAC. There are so many makeup lines, but what you need to know is it does not matter which line of color you use. What matters is what you know and how to use it. And when I teach makeup classes, because I also teach makeup classes, I tell my students, they always have the same question, always. Which brand of eyeliner is that? Which brand of eyeshadow is that? Which brand of lipstick is that? And I say, I want you to understand that it is not the brand that makes the outcome. It is what you know and how you mix the shades of color that shows a beautiful outcome, that shows beautiful work, that shows the final results as being gorgeous. It doesn't matter because you're not labeling this. You're not going to label every section of the face with CoverGirl here, Maybelline there, L'Oreal over here. You know, you're not. You're just going to mix the colors and you're going to apply them. The same goes for hair color. It doesn't matter which line you use, if it's expensive, if it's less expensive. I use about 5 or 6 lines of color, and it is because I have different preferences. I prefer to work with liquid colors, so I primarily use Miss Clairol. I use Redken. I use Joico. I use Pravana. I use Pulp Riot. And so I use them for different reasons. I use L'Oreal. I use them because they have different qualities that I like. But none of that would work. None of me applying those colors would work if I didn't know all of this prior. So a lot of the times, for example, with Paul Mitchell, they call themselves The Color, and they will label them like this: WW, RV, CC, cool copper, red, violet, warm. So you have to understand when they label things, you have to understand what they mean. WB, warm, warm beige. So, and then other color companies will use a number system. So that's 6, 675, 65, 65. 6 means the level of color, the level 6 of color. And then the number pertains to either the warmth, coolness, or neutrality of the color. Every color line is different. And it is like I said, and I will repeat this over and over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what color line you use. It doesn't matter which pre-lightening bleach or pre-lightener you use. There are tons of companies. I prefer Redken as a lightener. There are tons of companies that make these products, but if you do not know how to use them, and I'm probably going to do a second part to this video on how to use developers and how to mix things and how to mix lighteners and colors and what ratios should be mixed. One important thing is follow the directions of that manufacturer. You have to follow their directions because they made it for that directions to be followed precisely. Otherwise, the result won't be what they promised. For example, I use L'Oreal Magenta a lot, and it's for dark hair color only. And the mixing ratio is always 1 to 2. So if it's 1 ounce of color, I mix 2 ounces of developer. If it's 1 ounce of color, I will mix 30 volume, 2 ounces of 30 volume, or 2 ounces of 40 volume, or 2 ounces of 20 volume, depending. And really, I always go a lower volume, like 10 volume or 20 volume in the roots because they lighten the quickest, and I brighten and use the highest volumes on the mid shaft to ends. We'll go into that another day. Ooh, I'm getting so ahead of myself. I don't want to, I don't want to do all that. So it's important to know this before you start choosing or even preferring one color line over another. I could use any color line because I already know this. I know it. But I don't really like using creams. I like liquids, so I use a lot of liquids. I will use creams certain times, such as direct dyes. I will use creams, but I like liquids. I like the consistency of liquid. I like that liquids make everything more even and easy, and my time is not wasted applying cream colors. They take a lot longer. That's just my preference. So I'll tell you guys a quick story. I've worked in so many high-end salons, and at the moment I work and rent a small space in my mom's salon, but I am independent from her salon. But I have worked at high-end salons, and I've been to, as I said, Paul Mitchell. I went there because I really wanted to get my license. I had already known how to do hair and do hair color. I knew a lot, but I wanted to physically get my license. And I'm so happy that I recently got my senior cosmetology license. But I've been a colorist for years. And so I've worked at so many high-end salons where you would think that these colorists, these famous people, sometimes they were famous, in quotes, knew what they were doing. And I'm not trying to boast or be my ego up there. That's not the case. I've always been just adamant to know hair color. So my knowledge is very high. I have a high level of knowledge when it comes to hair coloring. So many times these hair stylists would come to either my station or my studio, and they'd be like, George, this situation's going on. She wants to be a level 8 and ash blonde. What do I do? Or she wants to be a warm red and it's not looking warm, it's looking green. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So I'd say this. I need to see what's going on. So I would go and see what they were doing, what the color was doing, what the level was at, and I would say, okay, come with me, follow me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Follow me, I'll teach you a little something or another. And I would give them what mixture they needed. Or I would tell them, you need to lighten it more. Or I would tell them, you need to tone it to this tone. You need to use more blues or cools or violets in your tone and in your color for that to neutralize. Because sometimes it was too warm, they needed to neutralize it. So it's very important, my loves, to know this. Another thing that is very important, there are a lot of hairstylists that do not want to learn. They have huge egos and they say, I know it all. I don't need any help. I know what I'm doing. And they don't ask for help. When I started as a, apprentice, I asked questions all the time. I asked everything I needed to ask. I asked what they were mixing. I asked, how is it that you got it to look, reddish orange? Or how is it that you got it to look ash or neutral? Or why is this happening? Or why is that happening? I asked questions. I seeked out the information either through classes, books, videos, because at the time when I was learning, it was all about DVDs. Videos, and now there are hair shows. YouTube, all of that. You have to look for the information and keep your pride aside, because as hairstylists, we should not let our egos get the better of us, because that will bring you down. And also your eyes. Now this might sound funny, and I'm sure a lot of people have probably never talked about this, but your eyesight, your vision has to be, I would say, 20/20. So if you need glasses every time you work, contacts every time you work, put them on. If you need to have LASIK surgery, have it done. If you also have issues with your eyes, get it checked. Your eyes are your biggest tool as a hair colorist. Lighting, you see all the lighting that's in here? Lighting, proper lighting in your salon, in your studio, in your workspace is of the utmost importance. Aside from your eyes is light. We need our eyes to see the light, okay? So if you don't have enough lighting, you're not gonna see tonalities very well. You're not gonna see the levels very well. And many clients, after they get their hair done, they go where? To the bathroom. The bathrooms sometimes have better lighting than the salons do sometimes. And fluorescent, all that lighting that's on their hair, they can see exactly what's going on with their hair. And that's when problems will come to a hair colorist that doesn't know what he's doing or didn't have proper lighting to see what he was doing. And so all of that is important. The lighting is, like I said, super important. It's important for makeup artists to have good lighting. It's of utmost importance. Photography is all about lighting. So we need proper lighting at all times. Now, finally, a consultation, a quick overview of how I do my consultations. When I have a new client is when I have a thorough consultation. When I have a repeated client that I've had for years, most of the time she trusts me enough to know that I know what I'm doing and that I will suggest something that's good for her. Sometimes she'll want something different, and then we have a little mini consultation. But when it's a new client and she comes in and we have to do something, I have to perform a hair color service on her, I give her a thorough consultation. So she'll come in, and sometimes I will lift the hair. The first thing I do is start lifting the hair. I start seeing it in the light. And I say, okay, this level is a level 1. It's black. Sometimes the roots will be brown and the rest will be black. Really, women just come in with a lot of hair disasters, and that's the truth. But I pick up the hair and I look at it and I analyze it and I look at it in the light and I really watch the hair, feel the texture. I see the tones. I tell her, okay, so what is it that you want to achieve today? She shows me pictures. I give her realistic expectations. Okay, so you have a level 1 and it's all black, and you want to go to a level 9. That's probably not going to happen today. I can probably get you to a level 6, 7, 8 the most, and that's reaching, but it will all depend on your color. And a lot of the times they have previous colors and they won't admit to it. You have to be, as a hair colorist and a hairstylist, you have to have your common sense about you. A lot of women, I am not lying, will lie to you, to your face. They will lie and lie about their hair color history. I will clearly see that their roots are light brown and the rest is dark black. And I'll say, so you've colored your hair black. And they'll have the audacity to say, no, I've never colored it. My hair is a virgin. Virgin? Your hair is a what? A virgin hair? I don't think so. You have colored your hair black, my dear, if you could see here. And then they'll start fessing up. Oh yeah, I did color it about a year ago. Or I colored it 6 months ago. Or I colored it 2 years ago. But you have that color in your hair. That pigmentation is in your hair. So we have to now work to remove that pigmentation. So getting to this level 9, 10 is not going to happen today. So I am very clear and concise. I show them pictures. I show them pictures of what they can achieve in one day. Because a lot of the times our clients want miracles, and we're not miracle workers. We don't want to ruin and damage and burn and leave them bald in one day trying to get to this lightest level. No. As hairstylists, we need to be honest, and we need to know what we are doing. A client will love you when you tell them the truth. A client will love you and stick with you when you have promised them a level 6 ash blonde, and that is what you do. She's going to always stick around. She's always going to be there with you through the thick and thin, through any pandemia. I have been working constantly, thank God. I have been working constantly because I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. And a lot of women, believe it or not, value their hair, their haircuts, their hair color so much that they will sometimes, I'm not lying, forego paying other important utilities or things to get their hair done right. So you as a hairstylist, you as a colorist, you must know this completely, the laws of color. Please know them. And so I want to finish with thanking you all for being here for such a long time. It's been about 50 minutes now. I really do hope that this class, this color, laws of color for hair color, because this is really just the laws of color. I'm only attaching hair to it, but it's really the laws of color as it pertains to hair. So probably my thumbnail and my title is going to be the laws of hair color, but really it's just the laws of color. It's the same thing. It's just that with hair, we have to think of 2 other separate things: levels and tonality. Levels and tonality. Pigmentation is always in there, but we have to remember that levels and tonality. Pigmentation is also important, of course, but just everything is important. So I hope you enjoyed the video, my loves. I am so happy to have recorded my first ever English-speaking YouTube video. I hope that you all as an audience take me into your homes. Please subscribe to my page, like the video, share the video, share it with people who are learning to be hairstylists, hair colorists, for cosmetology students. I think it is of utmost importance for you to share it with them if they don't know already or whatever. Please refer back to this video. Please like the page and like my channel. Touch the little bell notification, subscribe. I'm growing. I'm slowly growing and I'm trying to give good quality videos and I hope you all enjoy them. Thank you all so much for being here and I will see you possibly in the next video. My channel is Latino Hispanic based and I don't know if I said that right. There's so many things that you say now. It's, you know, offensive if I use certain words. So I apologize if I offend anyone. But I like to be politically correct, but sometimes it's hard for me to be politically correct because I just want to be myself and I don't want to fake it for the sake of faking it. But no, I really do hope that you enjoy my channel. My channel is Latino based, but I'm thinking of doing some of my videos in English. Some of them need to be in both languages. And if I'm bilingual, why not make bilingual videos? Or why not make separate videos, one for the English speaking market and one for the Latino speaking market? Or Hispanic speaking market. I don't know which word you guys want me to say. But yes, so what I believe to be important, I will probably start doing them in English as well. This is so much work for me, but I feel that we all need the help. I think as hairstylists, we all need to be helpful to each other. We need to have a helping hand to everyone. Please don't be the type of hairstylist that has an ego. That is one of the my biggest turnoffs, my biggest pet peeves is when a hairstylist has his or her nose up in the air and they think they know it all. Oh, I know all that. Oh, I don't need any help. Oh, I know all of that. I can do it all. No, we all need help. We all need help. Thank you all for being here. Take care, you guys, and I will see you in the next video.